Hey guys, Todd Anderson back today with another playtest video with Mr. Braun-Duin. Today we have a special treat for you. We're going to be playing Modern. A lot of you, a couple weeks ago when I played Modern with Brad Nelson, requested me to play Tron in a video. So this week we're going to be playing Red Green Tron. We're going to go over the deck for a minute, but I'd like to say one thing first. I know that I have the same shirt on that I had for the last 2 weeks, but that's because I don't like to do laundry. Just kidding. Well, we had to film a lot of videos all in a short time span due to the holidays, so please, bear with us. But hopefully, you'll get a little bit out of this video. Modern season's coming up soon, so it should be a lot of fun. Let's go and take a look at the deck before we get started. All right, to start off with, we have all of our threats lined up right here. While Karn can't necessarily win the game on his own, you can get out of hand with it, steal a bunch of their cards, and then when you ultimate, you get to start the game over. But along with all of the Urza lands, if you can cast turn 3 Karn Liberated, and it's usually game over against a lot of decks. You have a lot of ways to cycle through, to hit colors, to hit mana in the early turns, dig for Tron pieces, while still being able to hit Tron on turn 3. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with the deck, let's start with the basics. So the deck is called Red Green Tron because when you assemble Urza's Mine, Urza's Tower, and Urza's Power Plant, you get an extraordinary amount of mana. Now, traditionally, this would just be called getting the Urza cycle lands into play, but someone came up with the genius title to call it Assembling Voltron. So now it's just called UrzaTron instead of Voltron, and that's where the name came from. People were doing very similar things with Cloud Post before Cloud Post got banned, but now we're just left with the Urza lands, and they're fine. They're still very powerful, and hopefully you'll get to see just how good they are today. But continuing on with the deck, we have 1 Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, and 3 Wurmcoil Engine, all which we can search up with an Eye of Ugin. The Eye of Ugin works specifically well with Urza lands because when you hit all 3 Urza lands, you have 7 mana, which is conveniently just enough to activate the Eye of Ugin to go get a Wurmcoil Engine, or what have you. We also have 1 Spellskite, which is very good against all the Infect decks, as well as Splinter Twin and various other things with a lot of removal. It's also just a blocker, which is nice. The deck is full of cantripping, artifacts, and spells to help you find your Urza lands while also generating velocity to build up to casting a huge threat on turn 3 or turn 4. We have 4 Chromatic Star and 4 Chromatic Sphere. Now these, what they do is they let you to go play an Urza land on turn 1, and then on turn 2 you get to cast either Sylvan Scrying or Ancient Stirrings while also hitting a second Urza land, and hopefully finding the third Urza land off of either the Scrying or the Stirring. The deck plays 4 main deck Relic of Progenitus to help you interact with graveyard-based decks, while also still giving you a cantrip. So this card shrinks Tarmogoyf, makes Deathrite Shaman bad, keeps Grim Lavamancer in check, and the like. It's a pretty good card, makes Snapcaster much worse as well. We have 4 Exposition Map, which function very similarly to Ancient Stirring and Sylvan Scrying. We have 1 Explore, because we couldn't play 2. I don't know why. But we have 4 Pyroclasms and 3 Oblivion Stones as our sweepers, and these are just because the early Creature Rush decks, like the Delver Geist decks, are really strong against us, and having the 4 Pyroclasm helps a lot. And then the 3 Oblivion Stone, we can activate it pretty easily since it's all colorless mana to activate. The mana base is pretty straightforward. Since we have the 4 Chromatic Sphere, 4 Chromatic Star, Expedition Map, and Sylvan Scrying, we have enough red sources to actually have red cards in our deck, like Pyroclasm. We have 4 Grove of the Burn Willows as our dual land. We have 12 Urza land pieces, 2 basic forest, and 1 Ghost Quarter, which we can use to help kill a Raging Ravine or a Celestial Colonnade or something of that nature that's troubling us. I personally think Tectonic Edge might be better, but the fact that you can use Ghost Quarter regardless of how many lands your opponent has in play, I think is important. So. And then we have the 1 Eye of Ugin, which is a land but doesn't really function as a land. It's more of just a spell. We can search for it with Expedition Map and Sylvan Scrying, and sometimes dig for it with Ancient Stirring. So it's a pretty good card. Alright guys, well that's the main deck. Let's go ahead and move on to the sideboard. Alright guys, so the sideboard is built to handle various things that Modern can throw at you, such as Storm decks, Affinity, Artifact-based decks, as well as very aggressive decks. It's not a lot of elements to combat control because there aren't too many actual control decks in the format, and your game one plan of just casting Emrakul is usually good enough to beat them because they're not very fast. Their main ways to attack you are like Blood Moon and things of that nature, and we do have 4 Nature's Claims to be able to kill their Blood Moons, and we have a lot of ways to fetch out the 2 forests in the deck, so it's not really that problematic. But we're going to go over the sideboard real quick. We have 4 Nature's Claims, which again are good against Blood Moon, Affinity, decks with just like a lot of artifacts or enchantments that are annoying. There aren't too many things that you're really worried about, but being able to stall out Affinity for 1 green mana is nice. We have 2 Combust, which are great against Splinter Twin, although a lot of them are playing Mizium skins now, so Combust isn't nearly as good. We have 1 Vandal Blast to go along with the Nature's Claims to help us give 1 more huge blowout card for Affinity. We have the 4th Oblivion Stone, 1 Electrickery, which is normally used as like a 5th Pyroclasm, where it's really good against the Poison deck, which we'll be playing against today, because you can just spend 1 mana and kill their first creature. Or if they attack with like 2 or 3 guys, you just can sometimes Electrickery them during their attack step and get them, and hopefully they don't have more than like 1 pump spell. We have a 2nd Dismember. Do we have a Dismember in the main deck? No, we just have 1 Dismember. Sorry about that. To help just give us an extra removal spell against poison. 4th Wormcoil Engine against the really aggressive decks. 2nd Spellskite against poison as well as Splinter Twin and like burn and stuff. Grim Poppet, which is going to be fantastic in this matchup, but the fact that we can search it up with the Ivugan is crucial. And 2 Thorn of Amethyst, which are great against the combo decks in the format. So. Alright guys, well, that is Red Green Tron, or Voltron, or whatever you want to call it. Red Green Tron is what everyone else is calling it, so that's what I'm going to call it. But I love this style of deck. It gets really big really fast. Your opponents are basically just trying to race you, and the fact that your deck has like 20 cards that draw cards or search for cards or whatever means that you're just going to be more consistent than them most of the time. And honestly, I really expected this deck to win the Grand Prix in Chicago. And this specific list was David Gleischer's list from that Grand Prix. And then the Poison deck that Brian's going to be playing is the 16th place deck from that Grand Prix, but it looked pretty solid. So, all right, guys, well, we'll be back in just a moment for the playtest video, but thanks for watching. We'll be right back.